Hello, I'm Thomas Hare, Chief Content Officer of the Performance-Driven Marketing Institute, a not-for-profit trade association that serves companies in the performance and direct-to-consumer marketing world. Welcome to the first event in our 2024 Fall Seminar Series, created by the PDMI's Women's Leadership Council, Navigating Q4 Media Madness. We welcome all of you to today's event, PDMI members and non-members alike. If you're not a PDMI member but are attending today, we'd love to have you consider joining the association. There's no better way to support the mission of the PDMI than joining and sharing your voice in the direction of the industry. In the handouts tab of your control panel, you'll find our PDMI membership brochure. I urge you to download it, flip through it, and contact any of our team members should you desire more information. Now, considering the glut of advertising on tap for the final 3 months of 2024, from election ads through the first 5 weeks on to Medicare Advantage and open enrollment campaigns running from mid-October through the first week of December, and then holiday marketing sucking up what seems like any option is left, performance brands and their media partners are facing daunting prospects and limited inventory. Today, the Women's Leadership Council presents this special conversation from buy-side and sell-side experts that will explain how to find effective media opportunities in this maelstrom while helping drive performance brands' ROI to the annual finish line. The host and moderator of today's event is Fern Lee, CEO of THOR Associates, chair of the Women's Leadership Council, and a member of the PDMI's e-commerce council. Fern is an experienced award-winning expert with a proven track record of creating brand loyalty, lead generation, and transactional revenue by utilizing brand and direct response marketing methods, including DRTV production and media across linear, CTV, programmatic, and OTT, digital, radio, print, retail, home shopping, and international to create a robust ROI. In 2018, Fern was inducted into the Direct Response Hall of Fame, and under the THOR umbrella, she's opened the funnel and provided success to recent clients such as MetLife, AIG, Humana, Transact, Johnson & Johnson, Colonial Penn, Mars, Balsam Hill, Focus Factor, Kumon, and many more. She's joined today by this amazing group of women: Andreadakis, Executive Vice President of Media at Bluewater; Amber Landry, Vice President of Performance Ad Sales at Hallmark Media; Cassie McCann, Vice President of Client Services at Lockard Wechsler Direct; and last but not least, Alexis Rosenberg, Account Executive at Dish Media. Welcome to all of you. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Fern, team.
This is exciting, everyone. It's going to be a phenomenal panel, great panel. Start writing them down and send them off so we can have a discussion at the end. So this is media madness on steroids. Starting really literally next week, beginning of October, you're going to have full-length politicals, everything from locals to nationals, senatorial elections to general presidential elections, and then it becomes madness because we start Medicare Advantage. As everyone knows, every commercial is a Medicare Advantage commercial starting October 15th. So it's going to be a very interesting poll between politicals that, will end on November 5th till December 7th. And then, as Tom said, you have the mad of really holiday retailers like Balsam Brands, etc. So let's jump in. So how does creative length and offer factor into a strong Q4 strategy? Sarah, why don't you talk about that a little?
Both creative length and the strength of your offer are just critical components in driving performance, not just in Q4, but really in any time of the year. But very much so during a crowded and competitive environment such as fourth quarter. A couple of things in preparing for this time of year have been really important. One of those is to have a variety of creative lengths to utilize. A lot of us are doing a lot of things with short form, and in short form, having the utilization of that 120 and the 60 and the 30 is very, very important. We're also seeing a lot of clients have a lot of success with mid-form, which is going to be a good tool to leverage during this fourth quarter as well. So will there be...
Sarah, explain that so that everyone or the audience... Yes, to make sure they understand what you're saying.
That's our affectionate term for the 3 minutes and the 5 minutes. So to answer the question, will there be 120s? Yes, there will be 120 media availability. Will it be a little bit tougher to get a hold of? Yep. And having those other creative lengths will be important. Having offers to help you navigate and shift around and utilize those multiple tools in your toolbox will be helpful to get the inventory that you need during this time of year.
And Amber, so what percentage of 120s do you sell versus 60s during this Q4?
Well, I think it depends on the network. We have 3 linear properties, so the higher reach property of Hallmark is going to be a little bit more challenging to get those 120s on. It's not exactly impossible, but it is going to be a challenge, and there may be a premium. So I'm happy to hear that you do have those other creative blends. But we also have 2 other networks, Hallmark Mystery and Hallmark Family. Inventory is expected to be tight as the topic of this conversation, but we're able to use that reach and find pockets of area, even for the mid-length clients on Mystery and Family, which mid-length is a new term I just learned. 3 and 5 minutes, we do have that availability on Hallmark Mystery and Hallmark Family as well. So I think it kind of depends. I think you need to work with your sales rep to find where those pockets of time are going to be, but just keep in mind the peak weeks of holiday are going to be a challenge.
And Lexi, I know the Dish doesn't do 120s. Dish does 60s and 30s, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we take 15s, 30s, and 60s. As an MVPD, our pod lengths are 60 seconds, so that's the most that we can take.
And are you seeing a ton of politicals right now, with, you know, obviously with elections being a month away?
Yes, we are very heavy into political season right now, and it definitely has caused tightness in the 4Q marketplace. We do expect after the November election that things will loosen up a little bit, but we do have just a strong 4Q marketplace with our addressable and general market business, so it is a tighter marketplace. But yeah, political does have to do with some of that as well.
And so, Cassie, how do offer modelings factor into the Q4 strategy? How important is that? Do you tell clients who are used to running 120s that they have to open themselves up and run more 60s? You know, what do you discuss with them?
Sure. I agree with everything Sarah said. Really having as many unit lengths, you know, at your disposal is going to be extremely helpful. 120s are still going to be there, so no fear, we'll have that longer unit length for everybody that needs that longer message. But being able to maximize the 120s where we know the inventory is available, and then rotating in your 30s, your 60s, even your 15s if you have them at high frequency is still going to help balance and blend between all of them. We don't want to forget about 90s either. That's starting to become a unit length that we're seeing in some other areas. We won't be able to rely on it as much as the more traditional unit lengths, but it's a nice tool to have to layer in and maybe fill in the gaps where we're falling short elsewhere. Also want to note the strategy is going to shift from national to local, right? So local is really where we're going to feel some of the pressure from the political ads. So there will still be some 120s, but any of our geo-targeted campaigns, we're really trying to steer clear maybe of some of the swing states where the 120s really are going to be less available. But those are some areas where we might have to lean on those shorter unit lengths a little bit more.
I just have to say, everyone should know that Hallmark does not accept political advertising, so there will be no political ads in our environment this season.
And you do accept Medicare Advantage, correct?
We do accept Medicare Advantage.
Perfect. So you know that, but we're setting you up. All right, so how does Hallmark and Dish manage limited advertising inventory in this busy season? And what specific solutions does your network provide to ensure brands can still achieve their desired reach and impact? Alexis?
Amber, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Doesn't matter. Alexis, you go, Alexis.
Okay, great. So on the linear side, we have underlying avails. So whatever full footprint inventory, we divide it up for addressable, and whatever impressions aren't being taken, whatever households aren't being targeted for addressable, we have what we call underlying. And this is for direct response only advertisers. It's not in the full footprint, but it's a great way to get an efficient buy. Additionally, this year we launched our Perform XP product, and this is an impression-based product across both Dish and Sling and Sling Free Stream, and it's impression based, so it's moving away from the full linear footprint and more towards a more digital buy. And we offer this just to our performance-based clients, our Perform XP product.
And how are you hearing performance doing since you started?
Oh, it's doing great. We have 2 different ways to target. We can target based on either demo or clusters. So by adding in targeting, but only a small amount of targeting as opposed to a full addressable buy, we're able to keep those CPMs really low, which is perfect for our performance clients.
Absolutely. Amber, give us a little background on what Hallmark's doing and how they're differentiating for the fourth quarter.
Reach. So, when we think of reach, marketers are finding it in three main places right now: it's sports, news, and Hallmark. So that's our environment right now. Having that blend of reach and a brand safe environment, and also a contextually relevant content for your advertiser's message. So we're providing that environment for advertisers, but how to deal with limited inventory. We are facing limited inventory this year. So we do that a couple ways. We can offer secured, non-preemptible media on our schedule on our properties, which means advertisers would lock in their media with unit rate and frequency. So it guarantees that placement and avoids that volatility week to week. And believe me, it is very volatile week to week. So if the clearance is important and avoiding those rate fluctuations, then securing that inventory up front is really what will help ensure you can air your media schedule. If not, if you still need that flexibility in pricing, which after all is, the benefit of being a performance advertiser and coming in and out of the market. Again, talk to your sales reps. Don't rely solely on pre-logs, I have to say, because it is changing. We can change our schedule in 3 days. So only our sales reps are the ones that know what's coming in and out of our own marketplace. So talk to them. We provide the customer service and we'll help find the inventory to help the media schedule.
Totally get it. So, Cassie, you're seeing inventory after, obviously, we go through all the election, we go through Medicare Advantage, the open enrollment, so inventory free up on their TV, after 12/7. And if not, when do you think the inventory will open? Not to Q1?
Yeah, if you should see inventory open up almost immediately following open enrollment. So 12/7 is Saturday this year, so we'd expect 12/9 Monday to see our clearance percentages really lift, especially on some of those older skewing classic digi networks that the open enrollment advertisers love. We're really going to see inventory open up 12/9. Last year, some of our campaigns, we saw our clearance percentages almost double that following week. So we really want to anticipate that when we're planning. And then keeping an eye on the following week when some of those holiday advertisers start to reduce their scheduling, we'll see that open up.
Obviously, after 12/7, you see open inventory and rates changing, et cetera.
So we are lucky that we have avails across such a wide variety of networks. We sell over 400 networks. And so, the holiday season is busy for our kids cluster. The open enrollment's busy for our news cluster. So we have something really for everyone. And, different clusters and different areas are going to get tight depending on different seasonality. But we do have so many different ways to target and something for every single advertiser.
And Amber, so you talked to me about at 12/8 on, but we also know that Boston Brands buys a ton of inventory on your station, as do other holiday retailers. So this goes through the fourth quarter and it doesn't open until Q1.
12/7, there's still a couple weeks left of holiday. So while inventory, it's relative to the open up in terms of putting pressure on that inventory, we still have other categories that are increasing their presence. Like we start to see more weight loss. We start to see some of the fitness campaigns, some of those last minute retailers are coming on the network. So, and the fact that we still air holiday programming through the end of the year, we do still see some demand. But I would say it's not as much as those 6 weeks, but again, does continue. Unfortunately, but we will always find a home for your media.
Yeah. Fern, additionally, I think you're freezing a little bit. Additionally, we have live sporting events. So I know Amber had mentioned sports is obviously huge, as well as news for live viewing. We have Monday Night Football and NBA, so a lot of live sports in 4Q, and we do still have avails there. So that's another place that people can get in front of a large viewership.
She's looking directly at you, Sarah and Cassie. Remember, she has inventory.
Yeah, exactly.
How to clear.
To add on to what Cassie said, that yes, we do see a lot of things open up, particularly on those senior skewing stations. I think it's real important to also keep in mind that the week of Christmas, after we pass Christmas, we really see things open up at that point. So that latter part of the week, especially for your senior products that sell very well and your weekend SKUs, great time to buy. And then we go into the following week, also great time to buy and scale up your programs. So a lot of opportunity. I feel like persevere, just keep going through fourth quarter. It's going to get better. Utilize all those levers, but it will open up and then really open up after Christmas.
And again, sorry, just to tack on to that, because that's why I think it's so important to talk to your sales rep, because we're also dealing with shared inventory with our general rate team. So depending on where their allocations are in their flighting, that's where you're going to see those ups and downs. That's why you come to us. We can help efficiently help you plan your schedule.
And so which is great to jump into there, because Cassie and Sarah, every year, every Q4 is different. Every scheduling is different. You know, this year we have the politicals. So like last year we took, as Cassie knows, we took a lot of risk in Medicare and saying, hey, we're not going to lock in. We're going to take, you know, chances. This year we might not be a little risk adverse or not risk adverse, you know, so it depends on year to year to year to see how we're going to do it. So, look, question. So with election healthcare campaigns taking up a significant portion of inventory, how are you advising clients to navigate this challenge and still achieve their ROI? Sarah?
Did you say my name there, Fern? I'm having some problems with the audio.
I did. No worries.
Yeah. So when you're in it, if you haven't prepared for it, it's going to be a challenge. And so it's really one of those things to have been preparing, laying the groundwork for it well in advance. And that is having the multiple creative links, as we talked about before, is really going to help you to be nimble. Fern, your comment even about, like, do you lock in and secure media? We certainly have some programs where that's been an important part of the program, is to secure some of that media for this quarter. It's a must-have station or stations for that program to have. Utilizing a direct response buying discipline does allow us to have the nimbleness of shifting around the media as we're seeing performance or avails not where we need them to be. So leveraging the relationships, talking with your partners here, Amber, Alexis, and more, understanding what you're up against, utilizing those creative links, having prepared in advance with that media plan and schedule, having tested lots of different types of media, so you're not fully anchored on you must have news per se in a program, that you do have other outlets that you can utilize, will help you to navigate this. Keeping in mind, you just have to be nimble, always vigilant, looking at those results and ready to shift.
You're muted, Fern.
Am I muted?
No, you're good.
I'm good. Okay. So what percentage do you think that you're buying, you know, out of prime, out of, you know, day parts? So give me how you like break down and what you think about the different day parts.
I think it depends very much on the program. And it's all about looking at where that performance is. Most of your performance-driven clients, it's not about having a particular day part mix. It's more about where am I finding the best performance and leveraging and maximizing that. Brands who have different goals, then the day part mix is strategized and crafted and based off of what we're trying to achieve with their brand. We're looking for reach and frequency goals or whatnot. It's structured in the way to hit that.
And Cassie, what about clients that have multiple creatives? Because especially in Medicare Advantage, it's almost like this is new, like they're trying to throw everything against the wall because there's so much competition out there. So in the old days we would go ABC. Now it's so hard to even go AB. Give me some thoughts on that, on testing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're doing a lot of testing early on in open enrollment. We want to get our learnings as early as possible before we really start to maximize our budgets within that 8-week flight. But we really don't want to have any more than 4 creatives in the mix. That's really a benchmark we try to stick to really have enough budget and enough impressions behind a creative to really understand how it's going to perform, and making sure we have a steady control always going against it. A lot of times we can be quick to move away from it if we're seeing one creative take an edge, but it's so important to keep that control going against the new creative testing. So we'll be getting a ton of creatives in that first 3 weeks, but no more than 4 within any given week. We try to use a micro testing approach even, so short spurts, 1 week at a time on a small group of stations, and use a pass-fail approach to measure how many we want to actually carry past that first week or 2 of testing, and really trying to remain nimble and move as quickly as possible as we can.
Sarah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think a control in your test cell is critical. There's so much nuance that can happen from week to week, particularly in a quarter like fourth quarter, where you do need to have that as your control for environmental biasness. The test cells can be crafted in various different ways. And for me, when I take a look at how we're structuring that, I look at it as I need to be deep enough to be able to read the information. That might be a week, it might be longer than a week, and it depends on what the budget is. And if I'm reading something based off of cost per call, cost per lead, or further down into the funnel. And so similar to crafting any media schedule, it's what are the goals? What are the nuances of the program? I do agree that you can go a little bit too shallow if you put too many different spots out there at the same time to try to test. So crafting that test cell approach of what are going to be those stations that you can reliably read those test results between is important. And then how are you testing all the various components one with another? It should be a pretty well thought out plan and strategy versus a spaghetti against the wall kind of method.
Absolutely. All right, next question. Strategies that marketers are using to effectively navigate the Q4 environment? Cassie, how deep are you diving? What are the channels are you using? Let's talk a little about that.
Yeah, so I think it's going to come back again to the diversified media mix and remaining flexible in your schedule. So that way we can, really prioritize certain media segments in different weeks. So this year specifically, we're diving back, of course, to election years. So we're looking at viewership trends down to the station and genre level from 2016 and 2020 to really understand when and to what level the news viewership is going to start to take speed. So, we're really planning to heavily lean into the news all the way through election week and the week or 2 following that, and then immediately pivot towards stations like Hallmark Channel and some of those more family-friendly holiday programs when everybody's pretty tired of watching the news and wants to shift into holiday mode. The viewership trends are pretty evident, and we want to roll with that. But again, keeping flexible, really limiting our fixed deals so that way we can react to the shift in response rates, the shift in viewerships when we're actually in real time.
And what percentage, and Sarah, I'm going to get to you in a second, what percentage, Cassie, do you think most of your clients are spending on linear versus digital now and different platforms?
Sure, so that shift is continuing to change. Even on a monthly basis, we're continuing to see the share of streaming increase pretty dramatically over the last few months. So where in previous quarters, we've had closer to 30% going towards our CTV streaming buys, we're now shifting even closer to 40%. We don't expect CTV to really feel the same inventory pressure from political advertisers, from the open enrollment advertisers. So it's really a great avenue to lean on to take some of the pressure off of linear and work towards a total video integrated approach.
Sarah, you seeing it the same way?
I do. That diversified media mix is pretty darn important. It does depend on the brand, and I look at it as you have linear and your CTV, OTT. Also taking a look at what are some of the other channels that we need to be utilizing for some of our clients that's expanded into our digital media platforms of digital audio, social media, even then reaching even as far as radio to be able to get the volume and leads that they need during a tough period. And we're also seeing strong performance and success. That planning early and securing the inventory has been a piece of the strategy that we talked about. And then the next part is leveraging the data and utilizing the advanced analytics that's out there and available today to really understand your customer and who your clients' customers are and what they're watching, how we can expand into that and really drive the lifetime value of those customers, making decisions that are better for the down funnel versus just focusing on the top of the funnel decision or results.
Which is smart. And so, Alexis, how is the fragmentation affecting you and your inventory and how you're selling? Has it changed?
Well, we have so many different ways to buy dish media. We sell linear, we sell the Perform XP platform I talked about. We also sell addressable, digital, programmatic. So we have so many different options for our, buyers that it really helps them to be able to find a way that fits their, their clients' needs and who they're looking to reach. We also have both Dish and Sling, which has different audience makeups, but we sell them together. So you're really in, every DMA in the country, a wide variety of demos. So it really makes it easier on the buyer to find something that's right for them.
And Amber, talk to a little about the fragmentation at Hallmark and your various stations within the media group.
I think at Hallmark, we're pretty fortunate as an independent company. We have a brand that's over 100 years old that has built trust in our viewers and our consumers. So yes, there's fragmentation and there's been I think some volatility throughout the year, but we stay true to our brand, and for that reason, we've seen such an increase in demand on our properties. You can't find Hallmark anywhere else. We are 3 linear networks. We just rebranded our streaming platform, which is subscription-based Hallmark Plus, also utilizing rewards for Hallmark Gold Crown stores and Hallmark.com. So we are all about creating this uplifting environment for our brands and setting ourselves apart from the decisions of where to put your media on all of these other fragmented areas. So Hallmark viewers are diehard fans, and with the return of investment from our advertisers, we continue to see their success there.
And so, Sarah, how does the fragmentation of viewership and media options affect your strategy? In the old days, it was just linear TV. That was 110%, and that's all there was. So talk a little about that.
On one hand, it's diluting the audience, which makes it a little bit harder to achieve mass reach through just traditional linear TV. But on the other hand, it presents a really great opportunity where we can do precise targeting and personalized messages. And so we really see that as a great way to go further into audience segmentation with both linear and OTT. And that allows us to place the audience segmented creative on the right channels, the right platforms for that particular audience. And if anything, I think it's actually given us more opportunities to drive better results for our clients because there is more options out there and so many great ways to reach our target customer.
Cassie, shaking your head and agreeing. Let's hear a little what you have to say.
Yeah, from a total video approach, we're regularly checking different research tools to see where that viewership is taking place amongst the different demographics. It isn't a one size fits all, as we mentioned earlier. So what is that right blend, and specifically for that campaign, finding that right blend between linear and digital. And then taking it further, specifically within linear, we also rely on one of our proprietary planning tools to drill down to the hourly impression delivery on each individual linear station, making sure we're not just approaching our buys from a broad rotator perspective, and really drilling down to the hours where our specific target audience is watching and catering our buys and adjusting towards those areas. And then, of course, once we have response levels coming into the mix, optimizing from there. So getting as granular as possible towards that target.
Absolutely. So, Sarah, are there any emerging platforms or channels that are showing promise for performance-driven brands? I mean, listen, we now know all the streaming are starting to be ad focused. So how is that affecting?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not new, but it's something that I don't think everyone's embraced all the way or feels entirely comfortable doing that. So first one's obviously going to be OTT. Like if it's not part of your media plan, your media schedule, it needs to become part of that. We are shifting that way. I don't see linear as going away. It's certainly not dead, but we do see this as a huge opportunity to reach incremental audiences and to add value to programs. So start looking at it, testing into it if you haven't already. Secondly, there's a lot of noise out there about retail media networks. And so I think that there's some platforms that have a lot more potential right now than others. And we're finding strong success, particularly between Walmart and Amazon, to be thinking about in your programs. When we think about full funnel marketing, which is oftentimes what our clients are needing, what they're asking us to take a look at, let us not forget about the audio sources that are out there. While the reach and the viewership or listenership is less than what it is for TV, it's certainly a complement, and we're seeing a lot of rise, particularly in podcasts. When we're thinking about trying to reach a younger generation, we're trying to reach even a younger male generation, which can be, or demographic that can be a little bit harder to reach in linear TV. It's good to consider that as an option. And then last but not least is going to be social commerce and shoppable media. The creative that's being created and used in linear is not the same creative that's going to work really well for channels such as TikTok. And yet it is such a valuable tool to utilize, not just for what used to be just brand awareness, but also where we're seeing frictionless shopping. And so as you think about the production that you're going into and creating for your brand, think about these other channels as well so that your marketing is consistent all throughout. And it's not just a copy. I'm going to use exactly the same creative in my linear and my OTT and my TikTok, but that you do have that consistency across all of the channels and you're leveraging the multiple elements out there and laying on top of that a mixed media model that will help you to identify how that mix should look for your brand.
And Cassie, so just jumping back to like the Netflix, the Hulus that are now, adding ads to their viewership, are you purchasing, is LWD involved in that? And are you watching the percentages change? And as people opt in and out, I hear more and more people saying, hey, yeah, I get Netflix for this month, but until they have new programming, until it all drops, I'm out, then I'm back in. So it's got to be a concern when you're buying, ads on those obviously streaming platforms.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a learning curve. We are expanding into Amazon Prime, we are expanding into Hulu, but it's new territory, and those are all levers we're going to have to keep a close eye on for sure. But the opportunity is there. The inventory is growing, the usage is growing, CPMs are coming down. So the opportunity is there, and we're just going to have to keep a close eye on how those shifts are taking place over time. Channels we are testing, they're performing just as well as linear, if not better. So we're going to keep leaning into that where we can and really optimize from there. And then we don't want to forget about some of the lesser premium channels too, the fast channels. We love the Tubi's and Roku channel. Those are working really well for us. So those should definitely be a big part of the mix as well.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Cassie said, we're seeing a lot of success on the fast channels too, because those are ad supported for free networks, and it's a lot of consumers looking for their media. They want specific programming, and they're looking for it, and so they're opting in to find those networks. On Sling, we have over 430 fast networks and 41,000 on-demand movies, and we call that our free stream. And so those are all like before the paywall. So I think fast networks are definitely a place that has grown recently. And it's important for advertisers too to get in front of those consumers that are really looking for that programming.
And what percentage do you think fast is making up of it? Sarah, Cassie, of your overall buy? Small, very small right now, correct?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cassie.
Larger than you would think, I would say, anywhere from 25 to 40% maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say about the same. It performs really, really well. And the studies, especially seniors who are watching in OTT, they are loving the fast channels. So it's really helping us to expand those senior skewing programs in addition to other demos.
Okay. All right. So Amber, and it's going to be Amber and Lexi, obviously. Can you share examples of how Hallmark and Dish collaborates with performance brands to identify and leverage effective advertising opportunities, and how this partnership enhances campaign performances? For Amber, I'm just jumping in for a second. You talk a little about what we've done with Balsam Brands and doing different integrations, et cetera. So let's talk a little about that and what your network does.
Yeah, I mean, we've done several media enhancements for our advertisers, from brands like Holiday Decor, whom you mentioned, fitness, gaming apps, DTC brands, and the elements that we offer range from more upper funnel executions like in-show product integrations in one of our 100+ original movies. That enhances the brand awareness and also drives lift in metrics like brand favorability, consideration, and purchase intent. But we also have had performance advertisers sponsor our sweepstakes throughout the year. And our sweepstakes are our highest performing digital activations that provide advertisers with cross-platform opportunities and exposure in our ecosystem. It also gives advertisers the opportunity to engage with consumers through email opt-ins for additional promotional messaging. The list goes on. We have a couple of new things this year. We have a Hallmark Channel Christmas cruise, which the first cruise sold out in 24 hours, so we had to get a second cruise. We need a bigger boat. And we have a fitting sponsor of bingo night on the cruise. So that's going to increase brand recognition and hopefully also downloads of that sponsor's gaming app. We also have the Hallmark Christmas experience this year in Kansas City. So that's going to be across 4 weekends over the holidays. It's a unique opportunity for our very dedicated fan base to be in an immersive experience and also offer brands part of that immersive experience. We have such an incredible marketing team. So, I mean, the opportunities are endless, and we can work with our advertisers to find the perfect fit to make sure that they're also getting the return on their investment with those media enhancements.
Fantastic. We've participated a lot with you, so we know how great it is. Lexi, tell us a little about what Dish is doing in Sling.
Okay, great. So we are extremely data centric. We believe that, it all ties back to the data. And so by moving towards impression-based, it is the lowest common denominator between digital and linear. So moving towards impression-based with Perform XP, we are able to digitally add insert across both of our platforms. And we can track campaign performance because we can tag and pixel all of our Perform XP campaigns. And we work with partners like Innovid, and they read the tags and the pixels, and then they can set up website attribution with a user interface that either the client side or us can read and really in real time see the website attribution of these clients. So yeah, it's really all data and scientific based and working together to find out what's performing for our clients.
That's absolutely the key. It's a team effort, so it's got to be. So Cassie, with higher demand on media inventory, I know we talked a little about OTT, but how large role does it play in fourth quarter, and is it bigger in fourth quarter than it is in any of the other quarters?
For, OTT specifically, or higher demand?
Yeah, is there higher demand in Q4, or is it the same going across the year?
I would say probably similar. It's not going to face the same levels of demand as we are in linear, but it's increasing. I think there are political advertisers that are active there. They're going to put demand there, but the pricing's still going to come down. You know, the amount of inventory that's growing and the amount of viewership and impressions are growing. It's helping to combat that demand right there. So I don't think OTT is going to face nearly the same level of challenge that linear is in fourth quarter.
And Sarah, what do you think?
Depends on the program. Cassie had mentioned earlier when we talk about political and the impact of political, particularly on those who've been targeting things from a local standpoint. From a program like that, where you're trying to advertise in a really tight market like Phoenix, OTT can be great because it's not bombarded the same way. And so for a program like that, it would absolutely become bigger in fourth quarter. But in general, it's not necessarily a larger role. I do think that it complements a linear program. I think that it will continue to grow, particularly as OTT begins to share and have available more live sports and news, which has been such a hallmark of linear TV.
Absolutely. At PDMI West, we're speaking about women and women's sports and how it's opening up all of linear TV and broadcast, so it'll be interesting. All right, so Cassie, do you believe CTV is a viable solution to the tightened linear inventory? You know, we're hearing good and bad things about, you know, CTV, and people are concerned, you know, the older marketplace. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the question ties into everything we've been talking about today so far. Even our older skewing programs that, you know, might have shied away from testing digital to begin with, we're seeing success there. We're seeing it in 55 plus demographics. So if we can benefit off of, you know, the growing usage and you know, the growing ad inventory, then there's definitely opportunity for that share to increase. I know earlier we were also talking about, you know, having to leverage some fixed deals on the linear side. A lot of stations now are actually requiring a portion to go towards digital media if we're fixing linear. So almost being kind of forced into that segment. So, but it's a great opportunity for any advertisers who have been a little bit shy from testing into it to really start to dip their toes in the water and start looking towards a more integrated approach with synergy with, you know, the same placement on your linear and digital areas. So great opportunity to start doing so.
Sarah, thoughts?
You know, streaming OTT, it offers the viewer the same experience that linear does of watching something on the big screen. Okay, sometimes I think people think about it as being a different customer. Well, they're still watching it in their living room, right? It's on that big thing, but it's going to be valuable in these programs as it adds this greater targeting capability. It adds flexibility, or has flexibility like linear does. And so when we think about, you can do audience targeting with it, use data-driven insights to help you with the targeting of it while still generating the same kind of performance that you would on OTT without that kind of targeting, helps us to ensure that we're reaching the right customers. Then it's got all of the flexibility of buying and optimizing that you do in a direct response linear buy. Then you add to it the cross-channel synergy, as we still have so many people who actually have both. I know we talk a lot about cord cutters and not necessarily as much about people who still watch both. They still have it in their home both ways. And so you have all of your longer lengths happening on your linear, and then you're hitting them with so much reach and frequency here with the OTT. They're very much complementing each other. And then I love the part of it that it's not skippable the way that linear TV ads are skippable. So I'm able to get that messaging out there with so much scalability to the program. Now, should it be tested and measured just like any length, any creative? Absolutely. It is not a one-stop shop for just throw it out there, just like you wouldn't test on a single linear TV channel and think it worked or it didn't work, and therefore I'm going to throw millions of dollars at it or never test it again. So I hope that those listening have heard that we are finding success. You've heard from multiples of us that we're finding success for our clients on it. It is a viable strategy to utilize in a program. It takes, just like anything, the test and measure and optimize and scale approach to make it part of a successful campaign.
We're totally aligned. Cassie, you said something very interesting because we have clients, who, and more stations, more and more networks are insisting that you have to put a digital buy-in with a linear buy, and they're so against it. Are you finding pushback from your clients on that?
Yes, in some areas, but that pushback's really coming in from clients who might have challenges, tying back that conversion back to that initial front end response. And for that reason, it's understandable the hesitation that's there. If we are going to test it, we want to make sure that we can measure it and prove its performance. So I have to say stations have been pretty willing to work with us on that too, and try to spread the love with any kind of deals that we're negotiating. But one thing we've been recommending to some clients who might be shy to test it for the attribution purposes, give an 800 number a shot. We are seeing people respond to 800 numbers, so that's a way to measure some kind of response variable to make us feel a little bit more comfortable about leaning into it even further and putting the resources into fine-tuning the attribution full funnel.
All right, last question to the group, and we're going to go around and then we'll do Q&A from our listeners. So Q4 is scary. We're challenged. What's our biggest challenge, Alexis, that you're having? What's your biggest concern, biggest challenge for Q4 this year?
I mean, I do think that the linear inventory is tight, but I feel lucky that we did come up with this great solution with our impression-based Perform XP. So we do have another place for advertisers to go to. But I think that political is hitting hard. I mean, in a good way, like overall, like we're seeing a lot of ads. It's just hard for other advertisers that aren't political, it's clear. But we do have a lot of options for them between Perform XP, live sports, underlying. So I feel like there is a solution.
Amber, biggest challenge, biggest concern?
Yeah, it's the inventory factor. We sold more volume in the upfront, and this is a 13-week quarter versus last year's 14-week quarter. So it's condensed that much further and taking up that much more inventory. But again, we have a strong programming slate. So we, optimistically don't expect ratings to be a challenge. So, we'll work with the inventory that we have and find solutions for our advertiser. But I think this year, that's our biggest challenge we're facing.
Sarah, what's your biggest challenge at Bluewater Media or concern?
Yeah, I think it comes down to anyone knee-jerk reacting to a single week. This is a whole quarter. It's nothing's going to make or break on 1 week. We are making optimizations constantly throughout this. So hold the course and let's plan first quarter. Let's go.
Cassie, what are your big challenges and concerns at LWD?
Yeah, maintaining scale at efficient levels, right? That's and still trying to remain flexible and ride the marketplace. It's going to be a challenge. I think we're going to benefit this year from the lift in viewership with political activity that's happening right now, but really trying to understand to what level that's going to be, being that past years we're going up against were 2020. We know that was an anomaly of a year. So where are things going to land? Trying to predict that coming out of very atypical previous election years is definitely a challenge.
Absolutely. I think we are going to be challenged. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a total learning, for all of us. So, Tom, why don't we take some audience questions?
Sounds good. Well done, everybody. Lots of interesting thoughts, and they drew some questions. So, first one being, and Sarah, you're the biggest fan of Q1, so maybe we'll get this one to you first. Speaking of Q4 being kind of a bear, what are the best opportunities that you're seeing out there in Q1? And I guess from the buy side, what you're seeing, and from the sell side, what might be out there coming for folks as well in Q1?
It's always interesting when you go into Q1 coming out of an election quarter with a big year like that. So Q1 right now is looking very hopeful. I see good opportunities, particularly in the first couple of weeks there, that as brands structure how they approach those, I think that as we take a look at the quarter as a whole and make sure that we're looking at where to best place our media dollars versus trying to hit an exact number in any particular week. They're best set up to be able to take advantage of those early weeks before the quarter starts to tighten up a little bit more throughout as it progresses.
And so, Amber, are you setting up already for Q1? And Lexi, are you guys setting up for Q1, or are you just totally focused right now on Q4 because you're living it?
I am in the thick of 4Q. we are up to our eyeballs in 4Q.
Yeah, pretty much same here, although I do have to give 2025 forecast today, so we'll see. I will be working on first quarter, but you know, for us,
you got the crystal ball going?
You know, that crystal ball is not what it used to be, I tell you. Talk about nothing being predictable or the same as the past. So that's what we're dealing with and trying to understand how one year can vary from the other. What we do see in first quarter is we do see viewership tend to remain as we go into January, February, coming off of our highs from holiday, and we bring more original content, so we do retain some of that viewership as we get into the winter season with winter escape movies, Lovuary, and everything that can make you feel good. So, you know, weight loss is a big category, so that's one that's always big all over all the networks.
And Cassie, are you diving in all to Q1, or are you just totally focused on Q4 and, you know, optimizing?
We're definitely planning for Q1 right now, trying to get some of that preliminary planning done before we're in the fully in fourth quarter. So to Sarah's point, January, those first few weeks, it's going to be open. We see that every year, and it's just a really great time period to get a lot of testing in at efficient rates and really set you up with success for the rest of the year. So huge time period for testing new media types, and really setting the stage for the remainder of the year.
Fantastic. Tom, why don't you throw out another question from the audience?
Yeah, so a lot of talk about streaming and linear, how they affect each other, opportunities and so forth. It led to basically dueling questions. One from the perspective of wouldn't OTT inventory suffer from domino effect of linear inventory becoming unobtainable? And the other one being, with CTV OTT streaming becoming a significant option for performance marketers, has the addition taken pressure off of traditional linear marketplace? So which direction are we going here? Like, who's exerting pressure on who? Who's relieving pressure from who?
I mean, I think that there's enough room for everybody. I mean, we have so many different advertisers on air, and they're buying so many different ways. We have digital advertisers buying Sling only. We have programmatic buying, you know, Sling only. We have linear agencies. We have such a wide variety, and they're buying so many different ways. I don't think it's necessarily competing, but as Sarah had mentioned a bunch of times, complementing.
You know, I'm jumping in for a second. So I think as the baby boomers, you know, obviously age in, I think you'll see more and more diversification, but I still think older market is still primarily focused on linear, especially like with Medicare Advantage. Cassie, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think the two complement each other. I think there's enough diversity in the type of campaigns that are out there to lean into one versus the other. Linear viewership is still steady for those older demographics, and some people are taking the pressure and leaning towards CTV. So pricing is coming down across the board, I think, in linear and CTV, and there's plenty of room for both.
Sarah, what are your thoughts?
I think there's a recent study that was done, it's a MRI study, and when we take a look at the OTT viewership by age segment, there's a considerable amount of OTT viewership in the senior audience, and it is growing. It is less than the other demographics. So it's there. I think that study said it was over 40% or something like that, and still growing. I want to take a look at it specifically. But the point being that they're watching OTT and they're watching linear. I really like what Alexis said, is I think that there's room for both. In OTT, it's not a constrained inventory. It's like looking for remnant in OTT. It's everybody can fit in it because it's served on demand as I want it. And with that, everybody can fit in it. So I don't see linear going away. I think it is complemented by OTT, which overall viewership continues to grow in the OTT space. And it's having the mentality of looking at your results and adjusting what that mix is constantly versus going into it with a fixed mentality. I think it does relieve some of the pressure on linear when we're in tougher situations, but it's not going to be exhausted.
Tom, we have one more question.
Yeah, we'll get one more in, a few more, but we'll get this last one in. Knowing how tight Q4 is, give us your best tip that you can offer to brands looking to squeeze in some ad buys for the end of the year.
Go ahead, Cassie, jump on it.
Know which weeks are going to be the most efficient, knowing those key weeks and where to maximize your budgets if you do have the opportunity to stay fluid throughout the quarter. We know first 2 weeks of October are going to be open before open enrollment comes into play, and the last 2 weeks of December are going to be open with holiday and AEP starting to die down. So if you have the flexibility to maximize during those time periods, there's opportunity there.
Sarah, thoughts?
I absolutely agree with what Cassie said. I would say if you've got multiple lengths, utilize multiple lengths that will help you to get into a couple different places. Obviously, our senior skewing stations are going to be a little bit tougher to get into outside of the weeks that she mentioned. So if you've done some good testing beforehand and know that you've got a variety of stations that work for you, leverage the rest of your media portfolio outside of those couple of weeks there.
Fantastic. Lexi, go ahead. Anything else to add?
Sure. I would say like everything should be custom to that brand. So send me an email and I will help you find a place to get in front of your consumer.
Amber, anything to add in?
Talk to your sales rep. We know what our market's going to look like, ups and downs, even though it can change in 3 days. But we can help find the best pockets there for you based on your own advertisers' needs. So it is very individualized. That flexibility does help.
Perfect. Great job, panelists. Really, really great job. Very informative. Thank you so much for everything. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Fern, for running the show here. Thank you, Cassie, Sarah, Amber, and Alexis, based on how I see you on my screen. And we really appreciate you all being here and sharing this wisdom. It's a good teaser for the hour-long sessions we're going to have at PDMI West in a couple of weeks, where we're going to talk about a lot about media, a lot about measurement, a lot about attribution, ad tech, and all that good stuff. So we thank again our speakers and the Women's Leadership Council for bringing the event today. If you're a PDMI member and would like to get involved, this is what you could be doing with your Wednesday afternoons. You can reach out to me directly and share your interest in any of our 7-member councils today. Your next opportunity to attend a PDMI event live online is next Wednesday, October 2nd at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, when the Brown Response Council airs its latest episode of Take 20, featuring a preview of PDMI West in San Diego. To register, please visit thepdmi.com/take-20. And speaking of PDMI West, yes, we are less than 2 weeks away from showtime. You can still make your plans to join us October 7th through 9th at Hard Rock Hotel San Diego. Badges are just $3.95 for PDMI members, $5.95 for non-members. Visit thepdmi.com/PDMI-West to get your badge and join hundreds of your friends today. Thank you for joining us. Be well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.